Pastor Tunde Akinyemi did not become famous because he was loud. He became known because when he spoke, people felt exposed, like God had turned on a light inside their chest. In Port Harcourt, they said he carried something rare. There was oil on his head. On some Sundays, he would pause mid-sermon, look into the crowd, and call out things he had no business knowing. "The woman in yellow," he would say gently, "you have been bleeding for months. God is healing you." People would gasp. Some would cry. Some would run forward. Some would fall under the power. And the testimonies would go crazy, especially online. One youth leader started posting short clips of Tunde on Instagram, 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes, the kind of clips that make you look like a spiritual weapon. Within weeks, his name left Port Harcourt and entered Lagos. People began to tag him, to quote him, to cut his voice into motivational reels. A small church pastor became a trending preacher. But with this new reality came pressure, the kind of pressure that doesn't announce itself as temptation. His spiritual father, Papa Bamidele, called. "Tunde," Papa would say, "God is increasing you, increasing your capacity, bigger crowd, bigger impact, bigger harvest." Then Papa would add, like a warning wrapped in advice, "But you must pray more and seek the Lord's face. The new territories you are entering are dangerous. The devil is always lurking around." Tunde replied, smiling, "Daddy, you see this new level you just mentioned? I say amen to it. But you see the part about the devil? I say God forbid. The devil cannot try me. I am too big for him." Around that same time, another preacher in Port Harcourt started rising too. Pastor Jide from a flashy church across town. People started comparing him to Tunde. "Pastor Tunde is deep, but Pastor Jide is bigger." That sentence sounded harmless until it entered Tunde's head and refused to leave. Why would they compare him with someone who didn't even look like he was deep in the word? And that was where the problem began. Tunde's ego. Ego will always look for something to feed it, and Tunde's feeding came in the form of messages. At first, they were harmless. "Good evening, sir. Please pray for me." "Man of God, I had a dream." "Daddy, I feel like I'm under attack." Then the DMs started changing. "Sir, I can't sleep at night." "Daddy, my husband doesn't touch me." "Pastor, I feel lonely and I don't know why." Those always came late, around 11:48 p.m., around 12:13 a.m., around the time the house was quiet and his wife, Damisi, had gone to bed. Tunde would sit up in bed and tell himself he was doing ministry. 1 voice note, 2 voice notes, a scripture, a prayer. He started calling it midnight counsel. And because he had a gift, his words actually worked. People would feel better. People would cry on the phone. People would say, "Sir, you saved me." That praise did something to him. It made him feel big, needed, and very proud. His wife, Damisi, noticed the shift. Damisi was a midwife and an active church worker. She worked with an NGO that helped women in cramped clinics and crowded public hospitals. Though very busy, she tried her best to keep her home intact. She knew her husband in and out. It was not hard to notice how he began hiding his phone and got angry at the slightest questions. He even had a new habit of stepping outside to take calls, even when it was raining. One night, she woke up and found him sitting on the edge of the bed, earpiece in, whispering. Damisi didn't shout. She just said softly, "Who are you talking to?" Tunde covered the mouthpiece quickly. "Prayer," he said. "A member." "At this time?" she said. He sighed as if her question was an insult. "Damisi, people are dying spiritually. Satan doesn't sleep." She stared at him. "And so you also don't sleep again." He stood up, irritated. "Why are you doing this?" "I'm asking," she said, "because I'm your wife." He walked out to the balcony, still whispering, and left her in the room. The next morning, she mentioned it again while pouring tea. "Tunde," she said calmly, "this midnight counsel, do you have someone with you when you counsel women?" He frowned. Damisi, what kind of question is that? I'm not accusing you. I'm trying to protect you.
He scoffed. Protect me from what? I'm a pastor. Damisi held his gaze. That is exactly why. Tunde hated the way that sentence made him feel. Like a man who needed boundaries. Like a man who could fall. So, he did what pride does when it's cornered. He snapped. You don't trust me, he said sharply. Damisi blinked, hot flashing across her face. Trust is not the issue. Wisdom is. He pushed his cup away. I'm late for the office. And he left. That same week, a guest preacher came for a midweek service, Prophetess Ifeoma. After the service, she called Tunde to a corner of the church, looked at him for a long time and said something that made him freeze. Man of God, you are blessed. God is giving you speed, she said. But speed without purity will scatter you. Your gift will carry you into rooms your character cannot survive. You must not let the devil win. Tunde forced a smile. Inside, something in him tightened. Because it felt like she had seen his phone and heard his conversation with Papa Bamidele. After the service, Papa Bamidele laughed about it in the office. These prophetic people, he said, waving his hand, they like drama. Then, Papa leaned close to Tunde and added, almost as a whisper, but be careful. What she told you is exactly what God told me. Stay careful. Not long after, fame and visibility made Tunde start moving differently. He hired a media handler, a young guy named Shei, smart, always on his phone, always thinking about preserving the brand. Shei was the one who arranged recordings, edited clips, managed pages, and responded to DMs. Shei also became the gatekeeper. Sir, this one is a trap, he would say, laughing, when he saw certain messages. Tunde would laugh too. He enjoyed the attention. He enjoyed how women spoke to him with softness, how they called him daddy like it meant something, how they said, I've never felt this safe. Safe. That word was dangerous when it came with secrecy. Damisi tried again, this time with help. She spoke to her mentor, Sister Bisi, an older woman in their church who had seen too much to be naive. Sister Bisi listened and said, My daughter, don't carry this alone. Men of God can fall like any other man. Pray, but also insist on structure. So Damisi suggested structure. Let there be counselors, she told Tunde. Let women counsel women. Let you counsel men. If a woman needs you, do it in the open. Do it during working hours, in the presence of someone. Tunde's face hardened. You want to police my ministry, he said. No, Damisi replied, voice controlled. I want you alive. He laughed, bitter. Alive? I'm not out there killing or sleeping with anybody. Damisi didn't reply quickly. She just looked at him and said, I'm not talking about sex first. I'm talking about the path to it. Tunde didn't like that she was right, so he dismissed it. The next week, an invite came from Lagos. Not a church invite, a political invite. A top politician's team reached out. They wanted Tunde to attend a Thanksgiving dinner in Lekki, a private gathering of high-level people. Shei was excited. Sir, this is it. This is how you enter the national space. This is how you blow. Tunde hesitated. He remembered Papa Bamidele and Prophetess Ifeoma's words. Gift will carry you into rooms your character cannot survive. But then his ego spoke louder. This is influence, he told himself. This is kingdom. The Lord is taking me places and I must listen. Damisi didn't like it. Tunde, she said, please, let's not pretend. Those gatherings are not clean. Tunde smiled like a patient teacher. My love, I'm going to pray. I'm not going there to sin. Damisi stared at him. Temptation doesn't need permission. He kissed her forehead and left. The dinner started well. It looked like class. Good music, expensive scent, men shaking hands like they owned the country, women dressed exquisitely, cameras flashing quietly. Tunde prayed, people clapped. He sat at a table and listened to people talk about money like it was water. Then the night changed. Someone suggested an after party. Tunde stood up immediately. I should be going. But the host politician laughed warmly, hand on his shoulder. Pastor, relax. You are safe here. Safe. That word again. A woman appeared beside him, too close, smiling. Pastor, she purred, I love your videos. Don't go yet. Join us for the party. It will be fun. Seyi was already recording content in the corner. Sir, just greet them small. We need the optics. So Tunde stayed and joined the entourage at the after-party venue. He told himself it was harmless and just networking. Just 10 minutes and he would be out. He could even preach while he was there. 10 minutes became 1 hour. The music got louder, the jokes became dirtier, the atmosphere became softer and looser. Tunde stood uneasy, and that was when he noticed it. A friend laughed. Pastor, you're too holy. Sit down. Another person handed him a drink. He refused and they insisted. He took it just to avoid looking uptight. Seyi whispered, Sir, don't worry, we will leave soon. Tunde took a sip, then another and another. He began to feel bold and laugh more. He began to enjoy the feeling of being wanted in a room full of powerful people. A lady whose face he couldn't place was beside him, pressing herself into his body. And that was when someone recorded him. At the moment when his boundaries were melting. Of course, the video did not show him sleeping with anyone, but it showed a pastor too comfortable where he had no business being comfortable. By morning, the video was in a private WhatsApp group. By afternoon, it had reached church workers. By evening, it reached the elders. When Tunde returned to Port Harcourt, he walked into the church office and found the elders waiting. Their faces were calm, but their eyes were heavy. The chairman simply placed a phone on the table. Watch, he said. Tunde's stomach sank as the video played. He watched himself smiling, leaning in, laughing too freely, moving like a man who had forgotten his calling. He tried to speak. Sirs, I did not... The chairman raised his hand. Pastor, stop. People follow you and you need to set a good example. If you fall, you don't fall alone. This behavior is totally unacceptable. For a married man first, and then as a pastor. We must ask you to step down immediately as lead pastor. Tunde's voice became urgent. But the ministry is growing. People are being saved. Healings are happening. The chairman nodded slowly. Yes, your gift is real, but integrity is what keeps the gift from destroying you. We are protecting the church. We are also protecting you. Tunde agreed outwardly, but inside he was burning. He felt so embarrassed. That night, at home, Damisi was waiting. So, she said finally, this is what you called influence. Tunde dropped his bag, angry tears in his eyes. Damisi, you think I wanted this? You think I planned it? It was just a dinner. Damisi stood up slowly. You are still not hearing yourself. It always starts as just a DM, just a call, just a dinner. He clenched his fists. You don't understand the level God is taking me to. Damisi's eyes shone. I understand the level your secrecy is taking you to. He turned away, breathing hard. I'm not meant to be small. I'm not meant to stay in Port Harcourt forever. I'm meant for a national platform, mega ministry, bigger money, bigger reach. Damisi stared at him like she was seeing him for the first time. I see, she said quietly. Tunde didn't answer. That night, when Damisi fell asleep, Tunde sat alone in the living room with his Bible open and his phone buzzing. More messages. More, "Daddy, I need you." More praise. More temptation dressed as ministry. He whispered a tired prayer. "God, I'm losing myself." And somewhere inside him, a thought returned like a stubborn chorus. Just one last time. Just one last season. Then I will stop. 2 weeks later, a call came from Abuja. City Light Cathedral. A huge church with cameras, protocol, and national reach. They had seen his clips. They had heard his name. They said they wanted him to come and shadow their senior pastor with a plan for leadership in the future. Damisi looked hopeful for the first time in weeks. When Tunde called Sheyi later that night, Sheyi nearly screamed, "Sir, this is it!" Maybe a new city would reset things. Maybe God was still giving him another chance. Tunde packed his suits, his books, and his Bible. Abuja welcomed them with clean streets, big gates, and church members who treated pastors like royalty. City Light Cathedral had parking attendants, media teams, security details, and ushers who moved like soldiers. Damisi was placed in the women's ministry quickly. Smiles, hugs, "Mama, welcome." Tunde was given an office with a glass door and a schedule full of meetings. A national platform, the thing he said he wanted. Amara Ibe did not walk into Tunde's office by mistake. She came because her home had become a place of fear. And fear can twist a person until they start looking for comfort in the wrong hands. Her husband, Obinna, was a respected worker in City Light Cathedral. The kind of man people greeted with honor, the kind of man who stood straight during service and corrected younger workers with scripture on his tongue. But inside the house, Obinna's hands were not gentle. The first slap happened early in their marriage. Amara forgave it quickly because she was young and hopeful. The second slap came with an apology and a gift. The third slap came with blame. After that, it became normal. Some days it was shouting. Some days it was silence that felt like punishment. Some nights it was beating. In the morning, he would dress well and go to church like nothing had happened. And Amara would cover the bruise with powder and smile until her jaw hurt.
So, when she heard Tunde preach during a Sunday service, something in her shifted. He spoke about purpose, about destiny, about how God does not build a person to waste them. He spoke with that calm authority that made people feel safe. And when he prayed, it sounded like he knew God personally. Amara watched him and thought one dangerous thought. This is the kind of man who could save me. And somewhere between pain and desperation, another thought joined it, darker and bolder. If I can get close to him, I can escape my life. So she approached him after service. "Pastor," she said, eyes shiny, "thank you. Your message, it spoke to me." Tunde smiled politely. "God bless you, my sister." Amara didn't leave. She hesitated, like a person carrying a heavy secret. "Can I see you?" she asked, privately. The word privately should have been a warning bell, but Tunde was on a national platform now. People wanted him. People needed him. People pulled him from every side. And when a woman looked at him like he was a lifeline, he couldn't possibly say no. "Come tomorrow afternoon," he said. "We'll talk." The next day, Amara dressed carefully. Simple gown but fitted. Hair neat, perfume light but present. "Pastor, I'm sorry to disturb you. Thank you for agreeing to see me." "You are welcome," Tunde said, gesturing to the chair. "Sit." Amara sat slowly, crossing her legs with intention. Then she sighed and let her shoulders drop like she was finally safe. "You see, my husband," she began, and her voice trembled just enough to sound real. Tunde leaned forward. "What about him?" "He beats me," she said softly. That part was true. And when she said it, her eyes filled with tears, not because she was acting now, but because the shame of saying it out loud hit her chest. Tunde's face changed.
A righteous anger rose in him. The protective instinct, the pastor instinct, the husband instinct. He stood up. He does what? Amara nodded, tears slipping. I've tried to pray. I've tried to endure. I've tried to be a good wife, but I'm scared of him. Tunde sat back down slowly, breathing hard. This is serious, he said. Have you told anyone? Amara shook her head quickly. If I tell people, they will say I'm disrespecting him. They will say I'm trying to spoil his name in church. And he has warned me, if I ever expose him, he will make sure I regret it. Tunde's jaw tightened. Okay, he said, we will handle this with wisdom. Amara wiped her tears and looked at him directly. Pastor, she whispered, I don't feel safe at home. Amara leaned forward slightly. When you prayed on Sunday, I felt peace. I haven't felt peace in a long time. Tunde swallowed. I'm glad, he said, voice softer than it should have been. Amara reached out, slowly, and touched his wrist. Not a grab, just a touch. Please, she said, you have to help me. Tunde's heart began to race. He moved her hand away gently, but not firmly. Let's pray. They prayed. But even the prayer was too intimate, too close, too private. Tunde felt himself drawn strangely to this woman, dangerously drawn. After the prayer, Amara did not stand up to leave. She looked at him with that mixture of tears and desire. Then she said, almost like a confession, Pastor, I've been thinking about you. Tunde stared at her, shocked, flattered, alarmed. He should have ended the meeting right there. Instead, he asked a question that opened a door. Why? Amara's lips trembled. Because you are kind. Because you make me feel seen. Because you feel safe. I admire you a lot. I wish that my husband could be like you. Tunde stood up abruptly and walked to the window, breathing hard. He told himself, this is temptation. This is a test. This is a trap. But another voice in him whispered, you deserve comfort too. What's the worst that can happen? Amara rose slowly behind him. Pastor, she whispered, close enough for her breath to touch his neck. Please, help me feel like a woman again. Tunde turned and let himself fall. Amara connected her lips with his, and he didn't move away. Eventually, what started as comfort became a full affair, and it didn't stay inside his office. At first, it was once. Then, it became a pattern. She would message him after fights with her husband. I can't breathe, Pastor. He has hit me again. I'm outside. Please come and get me. Tunde would respond and tell himself he was helping. But he wasn't only helping anymore. He was hiding. He started hiding his phone more often than Damisi, who was always puzzled by his newfound secrecy. He locked his office door. He asked security for privacy because of counseling. Damisi worried about his behavior and decided to call Papa Bamidele the next day. The moment he picked, something in her broke open. She told Papa Bamidele that she felt like her husband was slipping into a world she couldn't enter, and begged him to please talk to Tunde. Maybe he would listen to Papa Bamidele. Papa Bamidele listened without rushing her. After the call, Papa Bamidele decided to reach out to Tunde. He warned Pastor Tunde that visibility without purity is a trap, and that the gift on his life would not protect him from consequences. Dodging Damisi's questions was not leadership. It was a matter of pride. Work that breaks your home is not God's work, Tunde, he said. Put structure. Stop private midnight calls. Keep counseling in daylight and with accountability. If you think you are above temptation, you are already losing. Tunde didn't refuse Papa Bamidele directly, but he kept shifting away from the conversation. He promised to be careful and made it look like his wife was worrying too much. Daddy, I hear you. I have to go now. People are waiting. I'll call you later. That evening, Tunde returned home angry and ready to attack. What is your problem, Damisi? So you started reporting me now. Are you going to carry our private matter outside? You want to turn me into a small boy in front of my father in the Lord? Damisi flinched, but she didn't step back. Tunde, I went to your father in the Lord because you won't listen to me. Tunde's voice rose. You want to ruin me. You want people to start looking at me like I'm doing rubbish. You want them to think I'm one of these pastors you hear online. She shook her head, swallowing hard. I want you safe. I want us to be safe. You are behaving like a man who is hiding something. He stepped closer, angry and loud. Don't ever talk to me like that again. Don't ever call anybody because you can't control your emotions. If you have something to say it to my face. Stop telling on me like a child. Damisi flinched, but she didn't back away. I'm your wife. I should be able to ask questions without you punishing me. Tunde's chest rose and fell fast. You don't respect me. That's your problem. You think because you are walking outside, you can now correct me like I'm your mate. Damisi's voice finally cracked. This isn't correction. This is fear. I'm scared of where this is going. Tunde scoffed, bitter. Fear. You like drama. Always the drama queen. If anything happens to my ministry, you will answer. Then he walked away and slammed the bedroom door so hard the whole house shook.
Damisi remained in the living room, standing in the silence he had left behind. The argument with Damisi did nothing to stop Tunde. In fact, it drove him further. He intensified his meetings with Amara in hotels. Sometimes it was in the middle of the day when the city was busy and nobody expected anything. Amara would arrive first, sit on the bed as she belonged there, and stare at the ceiling like she couldn't believe her life had become this. Sometimes after they finished, she would cry quietly. Tunde would hold her and say, "You'll be okay. Let us pray for the Lord to help us." Amara, despite being the one who initiated the whole thing, began to hate herself for how it turned out. What she wanted was escape and safety. But now she knew she had wronged not just her husband, but God himself. And at home, the violence didn't stop. It got worse. Obina began to suspect. One evening, Obina followed her. He saw her step out of a taxi near a hotel. He didn't storm in. He didn't fight at the reception. He simply stood outside for a while, watching the entrance. Then he went home and waited. When Amara returned, her face was calm, but her eyes were not. Obina looked at her and smiled once. A smile without warmth. "You are at the women's meeting?" he asked. Amara's chest tightened. "Yes." Obina nodded slowly. "Good," he said, "because I don't like liars." That night, when Amara fell asleep from exhaustion, Obina took her phone, and then he found something that made his blood turn cold. Not only texts, there were recordings and explicit videos. The man in all of them was Tunde. Obina's hands shook with anger. Then he stood up and walked out of the bedroom quietly. By morning, Obina's control had snapped into something darker. He looked at Amara over breakfast and said calmly, "I know." Amara froze. "I know about you and your pastor," he continued, still calm. "And if you think you can disgrace me and survive it, you are joking." Amara's spoon dropped. Obina leaned forward, eyes dead. The next thing he did was drag her and begin to beat her. As soon as he was finished, he said, "You will end this and reveal who that useless pastor is, or you will see a side of me you have never seen." Amara's entire body began to shake. She left the table and locked herself in the bathroom, sliding down to the tiles, breathing like she was drowning. Her life was crashing down. Somewhere deep inside her, the shame rose like a flood. And that shame began to whisper a terrible solution. End it. Amara stared at her own reflection in the mirror, eyes swollen, lips trembling. And later that day, in the quiet of the house, with fear pressing on her chest like a hand, Amara made an attempt on her life. They found Amara, but not early enough. At the hospital, nurses moved fast. Fluids, oxygen, a doctor's voice cutting through the noise. Monitors were beeping like they were arguing with time. Obina arrived and stood at the entrance of the ward like a statue. He watched with a face that looked like grief, but his eyes were doing something else, calculating. When the doctor finally came out, his shoulders were heavy. "I'm sorry," the doctor said quietly.
We did everything we could. Obina's hands flew to his mouth like a man in shock. Jesus, he whispered, loud enough for people to hear. A nurse led him to a chair. He sat and began to cry, but his crying was neat. Then the doctor added another sentence. She was pregnant. Obina's crying paused for half a second, just half a second. Then it resumed, louder now. Pregnant, he shouted. My wife was pregnant. Obina filled his head and rocked gently like a man who had lost the world. He let them comfort him. He let them pat his shoulders. He let them say, so sorry, sir. The next morning, Obina wore his most respectful outfit and went straight to City Light Cathedral. At the church office, he sat with the lead pastor, Pastor Othniel, eyes red, voice cracking at the right places. Daddy, he began, I lost my wife. The pastor gasped. Obina bowed his head like he was trying not to fall apart. She died yesterday, and she was pregnant. The room went still. The lead pastor placed a hand on his shoulder. Obina, oh God. Obina inhaled shakily, then lifted his head like a man forcing himself to be brave. I didn't come here to accuse anybody, he said, but I can't carry this alone. I need the church to know the truth. He brought out his phone. Then he did what he came to do. He forwarded everything. He sent the audio recordings first, then the messages, then the evidence that showed that the counseling was not counseling. He sat there and watched the face of the lead pastor change. Pastor Othniel swallowed hard. Are you sure these are real? Obina nodded slowly, eyes glossy. I wish they weren't. He leaned forward like a wounded man trying to be righteous. I loved my wife, he said. I tried to protect our home. I tried, but she was broken, and someone took advantage. He didn't mention his violence. He didn't mention threats. He didn't mention the fear Amara lived with. In Obina's version, he was the husband who lost everything because of a wicked pastor and a weak wife. The church went into crisis mode immediately, and Pastor Othniel asked the security unit for the one thing that could confirm the story. The church CCTV. They pulled footage from the corridor near Tunde's office. They didn't need any dramatic angles. They needed timestamps, and the camera gave them exactly that. Amara entering late not once, not twice. A pattern. Tunde opening the door and letting her in. Doors closing and hours passing before she came out. Other days, hotel receipts were mentioned. Not all confirmed yet, but enough dots were forming. The lead pastor sat back slowly, face tight. This means, he said, voice low, we have been putting a mic in the hand of a devil, my God. Outside the office, word began to move, because word always moves. One reality sat like a stone in everyone's throat. Amara was dead, and she was pregnant. And whether Obina was a saint or a serpent, the story had now taken on a life of its own. City Lights board called an emergency meeting. Pastor Tunde was summoned. When Tunde entered the boardroom, he still tried to stand like a man of God, but his legs were weak. Pastor Othniel said calmly, you were brought here to serve the Lord, but you chose to tarnish the name of this reputable house of God and exploit your sheep. Pastor Tunde's throat tightened. Sir, she came to me. The pastor Othniel lifted his hand. We are not here to debate who started it, he said. We are here to face what happened. Pastor Othniel spoke next, voice low. City Light Church is big. We have a TV broadcast, he said. We have partnerships, youth programs, donor relationships, political eyes. If we cover this, we destroy the faith of thousands. Tunde opened his mouth again, but nothing intelligent came out. So Pastor Othniel said it plainly. You are terminated with immediate effect. You will not minister here again, and we will address the church with the whole truth publicly. Tunde swallowed. Sir, please, let us handle it quietly. Pastor Othniel looked at him for a long moment. No, he said, quietly is how this grew. City Light went public the same day with a clean statement. No drama, Not many details, just enough truth to protect the congregation and preserve trust. Tunde went home like nothing had happened. No one really knew why he had been dismissed except the church elders. Damisi tried to find out what happened, but he was too ashamed to tell her.
That weekend, he received an invitation to speak at a youth conference in Enugu. Maybe if he preached well, God would restore him quickly. Who knows, he may be invited to pastor at their church. So he went for it. That day, he wore a clean suit. As he stood backstage holding a mic, someone rushed in, sweating. "Pastor," the organizer whispered, "please, you can't go out." Tunde frowned. "What do you mean?" The organizer showed him the phone. The videos and the voice notes with Amara had been leaked. The internet had done what it always does. "We will have to escort you out, sir. We cannot afford to have the youth see you." Security stepped closer to escort him away to his car. He entered the car and sat there staring at his hands like he didn't recognize them. Everything came crashing down. When he got to his hotel, he broke down on his knees. Within a day, he was turned into content. His old sermon clips were remixed into mockery. A clip of him shouting, "Run from temptation," was stitched with the CCTV timestamp and the explicit video he sent to Amara. The news spread around the church like wildfire. Seyi tried to save the situation. He logged into Tunde's page and posted a statement quickly, like he was saving the ministry. "Dear family, the enemy is fighting this move of God. False accusations are flying. We will not be distracted." It sounded bold, it sounded spiritual, but it was also stupid, especially with the proof. Damisi called and called. Tunde could not bring himself to pick up her calls. After hiding out in the hotel for 3 days, he eventually traveled back to Abuja. He covered his face as much as possible so no one would recognize him. He got home to an empty house. There was a note on the table. He picked it and read it. It was from Damisi. "Tunde, I'm not doing a press conference marriage. I will not stand beside you and smile for the cameras. I want to protect your image. I warned you, but you wouldn't listen. May God forgive you. Goodbye." Tunde, now fully alone, was broken. He felt so ashamed of himself and the result of his life. He fell on his knees and cried to God that night. He called Papa Bamidele, not to complain, not to defend himself, not to form a spiritual attack. He simply said, "Sir, I need help." Papa Bamidele didn't shout. He said, "You need to ask God for mercy, and you need to publicly apologize to the people. Only God can help you. I pray He gives you the fortitude to stand through this." Tunde cried, but he knew Papa Bamidele was right. He would own up to his wrong and seek God's face. That day, he recorded a short video in tears. "My name is Tunde Akinyemi. I sinned, I lied, I abused trust. Because of me, a home was ruined and a lady lost her life. I am deeply sorry. I'm stepping back indefinitely to seek help and rebuild what I destroyed. Please pray for me. Pray that the Lord would have mercy on me. I am truly, truly sorry." Some mocked him, but some respected him quietly. The video was the first time many people heard a fallen leader sound like a human being, not a PR statement. Months later, Seyi called. "Sir," Seyi said, smooth as ever, "I can clean your name online. Blog takedowns, SEO, narrative. Just fund it small." Tunde's voice was steady. "No." Seyi scoffed. "You want to remain like this forever?" Tunde replied, "If my name dies, let it die. I'm not resurrecting a lie." He ended the call, and for the first time, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Freedom. Freedom to be honest. Time passed. Damisi didn't return home to Tunde. Pastor Tunde accepted it because he finally understood that forgiveness is not a trophy you collect. It's a gift you rebuild toward. Weeks later, he traveled to his mother's village and volunteered to serve in the local church. No cameras, no protocol, no daddies here, just plastic chairs and old hymn books. He arrived early one day, picked up a broom and started sweeping the church floor. A boy watched him for a while and whispered, "Mommy said you used to be big." Tunde smiled faintly. "No, I used to be proud," he said. And he kept sweeping.
because for the first time, he wasn't climbing, he was rebuilding, slowly and peacefully in the light.